the Shtibel of Hollywood, and it's Baruch Hashem, it's the second time, according to Rebbe, it's already a chazak already, and we're very appreciated, thank you very much, and it's a big cover, the Rabbi Schreck.
The robe of my side of the town.
My side, east, west, I think I need more coffee. Well, maybe you like.
Maybe I'll go in the front. I don't know.
It's fine, perfect.
I'd like to thank Rabbi Smith for organizing this year and applying some pressure to get me here. Baruch Hashem, it's always a cover for me to speak in Beis Mordechai, to see it grow. I give Rabbi Smith and the Beis Mordechai community a bracha. They should continue to grow and see a lot of hatzlach in everything they do.
Amen.
So when it comes to kashrus, kashrus and controversy come like hand in hand, it appears. That of all the areas of halacha, it appears that kashrus is from the most volatile, the most controversial. And I thought to myself, and I've been involved in kashrus a number of years. I worked for Kosher Australia when I was in Melbourne, and now with Kosher Miami. And I was wondering, why is it? Of all the areas of halacha, kashrus is from the most controversial. So I came up with the following idea, that kashrus is extremely relevant to us. Probably from the most relevant halachas. I mean, how many times a day do we rely on a kosher certifying agency for the food we put in our mouth? It could be tens, some of us maybe hundreds of times a day that we're eating, and we're going to restaurants and we're eating food and we're relying on hashgachas. And it happens to be as well that kashrus is what I call a hidden field, in that unless a person has first-hand experience with what goes on, one doesn't really know what is going on. And therefore, people have strong opinions on things, but it's not really based on anything concrete, because how do you know which shechita is better than another shechita? I mean, how do you know? Because you heard from someone who might even be a rabbi who's never been to a shechita house. So how does he know what makes a good shechita? And even if he knows that, has he been to these shechita houses and he knows whether this one is better than that one? And it's all a lot. It's hearsay. It's what we hear in the street, and that leads to controversy, because I'm not confident in my opinion, because I really don't know what's going on. But I feel strongly about this, and therefore things get blown out of proportion and a lot of misconceptions. So, the idea of this, what we hope to be the beginning of the Kosher Miami kashrus education, or what we call lecture series, is to bring some of these concepts of kashrus to the public, that people should understand how things work. And like with that, an educated consumer is a much better consumer. So the topic of the shir is, how can it be kosher if there's not a frum Jew anywhere around? Now we can make that question stronger and say that within hundreds of miles, you don't have a frum Jew. Now with restaurants, hopefully that's not the case. But when it comes to industrial products, I mean, a lot of these ingredients are made in Indonesia, in Malaysia, in China, in Japan, in Pakistan. We have one product made in Pakistan. So the mashgiach comes and goes. How is that product? How is that kosher? And all hashgachas have products. Even the Eidach Haredis, even the Eretz Odik hashgachas, they all have products that are made in factories in the middle of nowhere, where there's no Jews to be found. So how does all this work? I'm going to be focusing on is the restaurant. That's what I'm doing here for Kosher Miami. Is the restaurants, and we'll use that as our example. That can be applied though to other areas as well. Okay, so there are three methods of supervision that would work, that do work, to make something kosher, for us to be able to verify the kosher status. Now, one is actually having two eyes there, seeing it. We call it the mashgiach tmidi. So you have a person who's there the entire time, and he sees everything that's going on, and therefore nothing can go wrong. Now, even if a restaurant has a mashgiach tmidi, it's not really a mashgiach tmidi. Why is that? Because from the time he locks up at 10:30 at night until the next one comes back at 6:30 in the morning, you have a whole chunk of time there. There's no hashgacha that I'm aware of has a mashgiach sitting outside throughout the wee hours of the night, just watching the place to make sure the owner is not bringing something in, which has been known to happen sometimes. But no hashgacha that I know of has a mashgiach there. Additionally, mashgiach can't have his eyes in every single place of the kitchen, and then where the storage room is, and then So a mashgiach tmidi being there does a lot, But that can't be the entire, it can't just be everything is based on having the mashgiach there. We know there's a concept that Gemara in Gittin discusses in other places as well, Eid Echa Ne'eman B'Yisurin. That if you have one Jew, you come home at night and your wife serves you dinner. So how do you know it's kosher? You don't know where she bought it from. You give her a faher every time you ask her where'd you buy it from. No, because she's from, and she says the food is kosher, and therefore you can rely on her that it's kosher. The same way we're relying on the mashgiach. But like we said, that can't be the entire story because he's not there 24/7. You have a 3-day Yom Tov, right? So you have 72 hours, no mashgiach there. Who knows what's going on? So there are two other methods that we can ensure the kosher status of a product, and we're going to go through the source in the Gemara, and we're going to see some of the achronim who discuss it. So the first one starts Gemara in Ksubas Nach Pehei Amid Aleph, a very interesting ma'isa. Source number one: Hayi Itza. There was a woman, the Chayve Shvua Beidina de Rava. She had to take a shvua. She was obligated to make an oath in Rava's bezdin. There must have been some disagreement about some monetary issue, and she had to make a shvua, take an oath. So she walks in to take this oath. Amrulei Bas Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda's daughter, who was in the bezdin for some reason, says to Rava, Yadana ba de chashuda ashvua. I know that you cannot trust this woman. She's going to lie. I suspect her that she's not going to be truthful, and she's going to lie with the shvua, so you can't give her the shvua. So Rava accepted we'll call it the testimony. We'll say it's not really testimony because she's not a kosher aid, and she's only one aid, one witness, but he trusted her. And apcha Rava the shvua asher kenegda. So Rava switched the shvua from her onto the person who was against her. That's what Rava did. And that's against what it says, what the halach is. The halach is you need to have two witnesses to be made to say that this person is not trustworthy, and then we'll switch the shvua to the other person. Rava did it based on Bas Rav Chisda, Rav Chisda's daughter's words. He switched the shvua. Story's not over yet. Zimnin, a different time, Rav Yasvei Kamei, Rav Papa, Rav Ada Bar Masna. Rav Papa was sitting in front of Rava, so was Rav Ada Bar Masna. Aisu Hahu Shtara Gavei. A certain document was brought to Rava. Amalei Rav Papa, Yadana Bei the Shtara Priya Hiku. I know that this document, let's say it was a loan document, that Reuben owes Shimon $100,000. So Reuben walks in with this document and says, look, a star says you owe me $100,000, we're going to make Shimon pay. Says Rav Papa, I know that was paid up. Usually when it's paid up, the borrower will take the document, because the document is proof that the money is owed. Something happened, he didn't take it, so the lender really got paid up already. He still had the star. Says Rav Papa, he's lying. He's taking money that doesn't belong to him. I'm telling you, I know this document was paid up. Amrulei, so Rabbi asks Rav Papa, is there anyone else with you that can also testify that he saw the borrower pay up the lender? Amrulei loy, not by myself. There's no one else with me. Amrulei, afal gavti ika mar, even though you're here telling me this, ein echad lav klumhu, but one witness does not count when it comes to this. We have a star that appears to be kosher. The lender has it in his hand. I'm sorry, I can't go with your testimony. Only one witness. Amrulei, Rav Ada Bar Masna. So Rav Ada Bar Masna now says to Rav Papa, to Rava, V'lo yehei Rav Papa kibas Rav Chisda. And what Rav Papa is worse than Rav Chisda's daughter. When Rav Chisda's daughter, I'll tell you the secret now, that was Rava's wife. Rav Chisda's daughter was Rava's wife. So when Rava's wife told him, you can't trust this woman, he trusted her and he believed her, and he switched the shvua, the oath to the other person. When Rav Papa, who's an Amoira, a rabbi in the Gemara, when he says that this document is paid up, but he's less than your wife, that's what Rav Ada Bar Masna asked Rava. So Rava responded very simply, Bas Rav Chisda kim li begava, marlo kim li begave. I know Bas Rav Chisda, she's my wife. I know her very well. I know her to be an extremely honest person. So I trusted her and that's it. But Rav Papa, I don't know you in the same way. Adkan the Gemara says. That's a very difficult Gemara. I don't understand. Rav Papa is an Amor. These were tzaddikim, we cannot fathom the righteousness they had. Do you really think that Rava suspected Rav Papa is lying? Was there a thought in his mind that there's maybe a chance that Rav Papa is not telling the truth? Of course not. Of course Rava knew that Rav Papa is telling the truth. So then why did he trust his wife? Or why did he act upon what his wife said, not upon what Rav Papa said? That's the question that Rav Moshe Feinstein is dealing with in the next Shaila. And we'll explain the Gemara by seeing Rav Moshe's words. This is a very famous truth from Rav Moshe Feinstein in source number 2, when he writes he was still in Moscow at the time. At the time, the Moskva, B'Shnas Tafresh Tzadik Dalet, around 85 years ago, Nish'alti B'Dover, Sha'avas Nizoinim B'Medina Hazois, B'Avaseina Rabim, Al Shulchan B'Neim V'Neseim Ha'oichum Nevelis. That unfortunately was a common occurrence in Russia in the 1920s. You had parents, or maybe probably at that point grandparents who they were religious, they kept kosher, but their kids got swept up with communism, and the kids weren't religious. But the daughter or the daughter-in-law was caring for her parents or her in-laws. They were staying in the house of their children. Their children were not kosher, but they were kosher, and they wanted to know, can we rely on our children that they're not going to serve us non-kosher food? They themselves don't keep kosher. The children did not keep kosher, but the parents did. Can we rely on the children? They eat everything that's also Rubam him koifrim b'Hashem v'Torasoi. Not only do they not keep kosher because it doesn't taste as good or it's inconvenient, they don't believe in a Kadosh Baruch Hu, Chas v'Shalom. And if you have kosher meat here and non-kosher meat here, they'll go for the non-kosher meat. They don't really care about kosher whatsoever. It doesn't mean anything to them. The imkain ein ne'amanim al isur. They have no ne'amanos. You can't trust them when it comes to isur. If they themselves don't care about it, there's a cloud that if something that I'm not makbid in, you can't trust me. If I wear shatnez, right, so that you can't trust me when I tell you that this garment's not shatnez. If I myself don't care about that halacha, so I have no ne'amanos when it comes to that. If so, these kids are not trustworthy. There's no way for the elderly parents to stay in the kids' house. How can they eat meat? How can they stay in the house? In other words, that's the shaila that Moshe is dealing with. Next paragraph. I have a chiddush. You can be makel, you can be lenient for many people. The imha of Yudea, and here's the key words over here. The imha of Yudea b'kimle b'gava. If the father knows the bitoi ukalasa, his daughter or his daughter-in-law, shelo yachshilasu be'isr, that they will not cause him to transgress kashrus. How does he know that? Mishum demakir tivla. He knows her nature. The yediyah brew with clear knowledge. Because he's tested her and he's seen many times that she could have lied. She could have switched the kosher with the non-kosher meat. And he saw that she didn't take that opportunity. She didn't trick him. She knew that would cause him pain. And she loves her father. She's not frum, but she can still love her father. She loves her father. If it's important to him, then it's important to me. I'm not going to be machshel him. I'm not going to cause him to go against his beliefs. Or you should tell maybe her nature is she's very principled, and she would never, even if it was some mishagas, some crazy thing, a person only wanted to eat a certain type of food it didn't make any sense. If that's what you want, that's what I'm going to give you. So he sees, the father sees. Again, the important words are harbe pam, many times that she could have cheated and she didn't cheat. She's principled. You can rely on what she's giving you. That's what Rabbi Schreck. And he bases himself on our Gemara and Ksubas. And he asked the question. He says that there's no way that Rava trusted his wife more than her papa. But he said as follows. He said that there are two ways in which I can trust someone. Right? Every religious Jew has what's called a chezkas kashrus. As a chazaka, we assume that what he's saying is true. Right? And that's called ne'emanis. He has halachic trustworthiness. He's trustworthy from a halachic perspective. Right? But I don't have first-hand knowledge that he's trustworthy. I just know that he's a kosher Jew. But I have no first-hand experience with him. Says Moshe Feinstein, if Moshe Rabbeinu said, "Oh, that guy's lying," switch the shul to someone else, we would not be able to do that because we don't know Moshe Rabbeinu firsthand. It's based on his cheskas kashrus. If you're coming from a cheskas kashrus, you have to go with the halachas of the Torah of two edim and with that process. But if you have a personal knowledge of this person, I know this person, I've been with them for years and years and years, and I've seen many times they could have cheated, they didn't cheat, then that's called the idea brura. That's like I see the food is kosher. If I know this person is ethical, it's like I myself am seeing it. If you go to the third column, the fourth line, Rav Moshe writes, the HaTorah nos leguvul, she'af Moshe v'Aaron ein nemanim. Even Moshe and Aaron are not trustworthy, b'yichidi by themselves, l'dinei mamin. Kol adam shem b'cheskas kashrus. It's like any other person who's b'cheskas kashrus. Skip down a few lines, middle of the line. V'alzel rak midin ne'emanis. That's when it comes to ne'emanis, the trusting a person. Shaloi makir ha'ish v'tivah. I don't know the person. I don't know his nature firsthand. Umidoyse be'etzem rak mitzad cheskosoi, but he has a chazaka. But im yodeu makir as ha'ish be'etzem mitzad tivoisov umin hagov shenizar bepamim v'ra'ah she'enu meshakir. I know this person. I have firsthand knowledge that he could have cheated and he didn't cheat. Ein ze mitzad ne'emanis. This is not the Torah trusting him. Elahu K're'iyah mamish. It's like mamish seeing it. Kevin Shuyidiyah Atzmis Shuyideu Makir Shlem Mitzad Chazakas. I see with my own two eyes this person is trustworthy. So when he tells me the food is kosher, it's like I saw the shoichet shechted and the person salted and take out the fats, and now it's on my plate.
Where's the Moshe get this? Maybe the Lord is that shot is that everybody has kashrus. But this woman, she's not makbid in Nida, she's not makbid in Meshach or whatever in Tznius. She's not makbid in a lot of halachos, so she loses a cheskes kashrus, quote unquote, right? And now, if you see her that she had an opportunity to go ahead and cheat, and she didn't, the Gabi da Achila, she gets back her cheskes kashrus. But cheskes kashrus doesn't mean, every year there's a cheskes kashrus, doesn't mean it's a real gemur. I mean, this is a chiddush from Moshe, say it's a real. You're emphasizing that you see that's kosher. What does that mean? You're emphasizing. What does that mean? What's in the kud over here? You just say that you don't see it's kosher. There's a halach of Adam has a cheskes kashrus, and the Torah says you can be noyig like that. It's whatever he says or she says, it's kosher.
So you want to say it's like a cheskes kashrus, they don't lie.
Meaning it's a chazaka, and there's a race in the chazaka. So now that she gets back her chazaka, but not like to the extent. I mean,
okay, so
you're making.
That's the Moshe's words. It's a good point. Meaning, Rabbi Smith is saying that it's enough to say that she has a chazaka. She's established that there's a status quo that she doesn't lie. Why does the Moshe have to go so far as to say that it's like I see it? You don't have to say it. You could just say there's a chazaka. She's created for us knowledge that she does not lie when even though she can and get away with it, she doesn't do it. But Moshe is going. These words remind us of the other tshuva, right? The words of Riyah Mamash reminds us of Moshe's Chalav Yisrael tshuva, right? Where Moshe writes, Chalav Yisrael, the Jew has to see it. He has to be in close proximity. He doesn't see it. It's being in close proximity. But Moshe writes, government supervision gives you that. So it's Chalav Yisrael according to Moshe. He says that the idea brura is a Riyah Mamash. The same idea that if you have clear knowledge of something, it's like you're seeing it. But there is a din of Riyah.
Right. Maybe the word of here once the race. So like you choshed the guy, then you have a stronger like it's
a stronger.
I don't know.
Okay, something to think about. But either way, the yesod, what's relevant to us in kashrus is that if I know a person really well, I know their teva, and I can say that I've seen them many times have the ability to lie, they didn't lie, so I can rely on that person even though they don't keep Torah and mitzvahs. Maybe even a non-Jew, one can argue. And that's what was going on in the Gemara here in Sukkot. Now, when you want to apply this to kashrus, it's going to be very hard. I mean, the owners of the restaurants, unless it's your brother or your sister, how could you say that you know them so well that they're not going to cheat? And the Chinese company in the middle of nowhere, how could you say that, right? So it could be that we can extrapolate from this and apply it in a more broad sense, in that, what's the Gemara saying? What's the Moshe saying? They're saying that if I see a person acts a certain way, then that, on some level, creates the status quo, and I can assume they're always going to act that way, right? So let's say I see a system in a company, how the system works. And that system is always working the same way. Kim Libigave means I have personal experience with this person or this system, and I see it always works this way. So I can assume it's always going to work this way. So we'll see at the end of the Shir Bez Hashem that one of the poskim of one of the biggest hashkafas, or not the biggest hashkaf in the world, goes with this approach. That he takes Rav Moshe's concept and he expands it from a person to a system in a factory. Yeah, well.
Maybe not to mean it by Yid Bura, you can say that if she knows whether it's okay or not, but she would have the status of a guy when it comes to the Bishul Akum and things like that.
Right, so that's interesting. He doesn't get into the Bishul Akum issue over here.
Then the knocking him with the kashrus is that you would assume Bishul is not Bishul Akum,
but either way,
Bishul Akum is in the seas, right?
Yeah, if Rav Moshe, I don't know what Rav Moshe holds. If Rav Moshe holds the Bishul Akum is even by not from Jew, it's a big machlokes. If he holds that, from this Jew it sounds like he doesn't, because it doesn't mention that, unless the parents were lighting the fires. I don't know. But it wouldn't help for Bishul Akum. If Rav Moshe held that they make Bishul Akum, then knowing that they're honest is not going to. If it's a non-Jew, also it's not going to help. That's the reality of what we're saying. Okay, so that's the first approach called Kimle Begavei. That I know the person, I know the system, and the system does not change. The person is honest. On the other side of the page is approach number 2, a concept called mirsis, which is the more standard approach to kashrus. So let's go through some of the sources here. So there's a Gemara Avodah Zarah. Now, it's the middle of a sugya, so we're going to pull out the parts of the sugya that are relevant to us. So source number 3. Amar Lei, he said to him, Loi halach l'tzur miyamecha, have you never been to Tzur? Where Isa Yisrael v'ovid kichavim, sheshaftu shtei kederus al gabe kira achas. Well, have you never seen in this certain city where you'll have the same stovetop, you'll have a Jew and a non-Jew with pots of cholent, a pot of meat on the stove, next to each other, and v'lo yichosh lem chachamim. And the rabbis never said anything to them. There's nothing wrong with being in the same kitchen with a non-Jew who's cooking non-kosher food, I'm cooking kosher food, next to each other, everything is fine. So the Gemara asks, "My lo yichosh lem chachamim." What is that concern that you're saying they're not concerned about? So Amar Abai says, "Mishum basin avela." There's no concern. Says the Gemara, "Lo yamrinan dilma mahader ape Yisrael." The Jew's going to turn his back for 1 second, or he's going to turn around. We're not concerned that when the Jew turns around, the goy will throw the veil into his pot. That's what the Gemara says. The Kavasei, we'll skip to Avodah second to last line. Rava Amar, no. We are concerned that when the Yid turns his back, the goy is going to throw the non-kosher meat into his pot. What does it mean they weren't concerned? We're not concerned about Bishul Akum. The point I want to bring out from the Gemara is that Rava says, and that's the Maskana of the Gemara, that we are concerned. You have a Yid cooking here the kosher meat, the guy here the non-kosher meat. We are concerned. When the Jew goes like this, he turns his back. When he's not looking, the guy is going to throw a piece of meat into his chocolate. And therefore you can't eat it. That's what the Gemara says. That's Gemara number 1. We have a contradiction. Number 4 is the Mishnah of Adizar Daf Samach Al. It's the Gemara in Chulin in the first paragraph, the Daf Yomi has just seen. Says the Mishnah. There was a guy, the Mishnah talking about a case where you have a non-Jew who wants to make kosher wine. So a non-Jew can't come close to the kosher wine, can't touch the kosher wine. So he hires a mashgiach, a Jew, to make the wine kosher for him. So Matahir Yena Shel Avit Kechavim, the Jew has the task to make sure that he purifies the wine of the non-Jew. In other words, he keeps it kosher. The Noisne Brushusa, and the non-Jew, as the wine is fermenting, he keeps it in the non-Jew's property. Hapasuach l'Rishus Harabim. But you can see right into his property. You walk down the main street, Sterling Road, you can see right into the room that he's keeping the wine. If the city has Jews and non-Jews, there are Jews driving up Sterling, everybody knows that this non-Jew is making the wine, and everybody knows that the goy should not be touching it. So when everyone passes by, they see that if they see him, he'll lose his wine. So therefore it's mutter. If there's not a Jew in the city, so no Jew is going to pass by, it's a problem. Until you appoint the mashgiach tmidi to sit in this room and watch the wine. Says the Mishnah, he doesn't have to be sitting there the whole time. As long as he's going out and coming back in, he's coming back in, it's fine. So it's a contradiction. The Gemara on Daf Yud Beis is telling me if I turn my back, the non-Jew is going to throw the piece of meat into my cholent. And here we see that I can watch this wine, and as long as I'm going in and coming back every so often, it's fine. But if I turn my back on Daf Yud Beis, the cholent's treif. Here I can go fill up the car with gas and come back 10 minutes later, and the wine is okay. What's the difference between the two Gemaras? Says Tosfos, number 5. He doesn't reference the Mishnah Samach Aleph, but L'chayr Kash is coming from there. Says Tosfos on Daf Yud Beis, Im Tomer Mai Shlom Yishar Yisurim, the Alma Deshari B'Yotzev V'Nichnas. Here the Jew turns his back in the pot of chunk, throw it in, and it's treif. But we're always matir with the Yotzev V'Nichnas. If someone's coming in and going out, that suffices. The Yishloimar Chashav is a very important yisoid. The Hot Desharinam Ba'alma Yotzev V'Nichnas Hanohechet Did Nitzvos Kagan. We only allow the Yotzev V'Nichnas, the person coming in and going out, when if you catch the non-Jew doing what he shouldn't be doing, he's caught like a thief. In other words, he's caught red-handed. Imotzi Yisrael, v'tava le'ledin, he brings him to court, he'll win. In our case in Daf Yud Beis, the non-Jew, when I turn my back, can put his spoon into my pot. So I didn't mean to treif up your cholent. You went away for a minute and I saw your cholent burning, so I was trying to help you out. So it only works that not having the person there the whole time if you catch him red-handed, he's like a gun. In other words, the concept here is called mirsus, which means that even though the mashgiach is not there, if the non-Jew is afraid of getting caught, then we know he's not touching the food. But in the case of the two kederas, when I turn my back, he'll have a good reason why he's stirring my pot. Oh, I was trying to help you out. So what are you doing? I caught it. What are you doing? I'm helping you. He's not caught red-handed. It was an innocent mistake. I didn't realize you have dietary concerns, right? But the guy who's making the wine, the non-Jew, he knows he should not be touching that wine. And if any Jew sees him as he's driving up Sterling, he sees the guy touching the wine, he's nitfus kaganav, he loses his wine, he is scared to touch the wine. And that's even at 2 o'clock in the morning. If the Gemara says you leave the wine there, if it's a place where you can see him from the Rosh Hashanah public thoroughfare, then you don't have to have a mashgiach there. Because a Jew can look at it, even at 2 o'clock in the morning, a Jew could be driving by. I'll tell you a story that I was, I said this a number of times already, that I was in going to Slichas during Seres Yemei Tshuva. It's very early, it's very dark outside in Melbourne, Australia at that time. And I was making a 3-point turn on a side street. It was dark outside, there was no one around. And as I'm backing up, crash. I hit a Mercedes. Right? It's never like a jalopy, it's always like a nice car. Not my car, the other car. So I hit a Mercedes. So it was a scratch in the bumper. And there's another person walking on the block, and he says, no one saw it. Just park and then go. So I thought to myself, besides the yashras, I thought to myself, it could be someone just got up to go to the bathroom or something, and passed by the window, and they see a person like me, and they see I hit the car, and they took out the little machine, and they're filming it, right? And it'll go onto the web, it'll go viral, the rabbi, it's not worth it. It's just not worth it. So I put a note on the guy's car, says my number, and then, and it wasn't worth the chance. What are the chances that there was someone who was filming him the whole time? What are the chances? Almost nothing. But it just wasn't worth it for me. But I told the chaver in the kollel, they said, but you didn't have to write your name. You could have just put the card there, and the guy filming it would have seen the card going there. Win-win, but I didn't do that. So I always bring this story to bring out the point of mirasas, which means that when the owner is going to try to bring in the non-kosher meat at 2 o'clock in the morning, you never know when somebody is coming by. And if you ever are passing by any of these places, any of the restaurants, at 2 o'clock in the morning, come back from a wedding, and you see a delivery truck in front of the restaurant, you should definitely call up the hashgacha. Because in a sense, we're also relying on that people are keeping their eyes open. And the owner knows, who knows who's going to come by. It could be at this 3 o'clock in the morning on this Thursday, early Friday morning, someone's going to be driving by and they're going to see me. So that creates the mirsas. There's a fear, and that's how the hashgacha works. So we don't necessarily have a mashgiach tmid in every place. Even when we have a mashgiach tmid, he goes home at night, or he has to go out for a few minutes. But it's the mirsas that you never know when the mashgiach or the yotzev nechas is going to walk in there. That creates a fear, and therefore we're able to know what's going on.
Because like in your case, maybe in your case, totally dina taka because you mazik and get filled. But let's say, for example, meaning what does it mean totally dina?
So in this case, there's no contract between them. So
fine, you find the guy, but they add the word totally dina is mashma. It's not enough that he's scared. He might be like your kid, like whatever.
he has to lose something. He has to lose something. In the world of hashgacha, so he'll lose his certification.
Oh, so
right. Here it's a guy I have no shaykhs to put his he answered my challenge now. So what do I have over him? What laws might he?
Some sort of
That's right. The next Tosfos, we'll just do it outside. Tosfos says that we're only concerned that the non-Jew is going to throw something in if he stands to gain. The top line Tosfos says, "Pirush read Shadi Basik Chusha Shaloi V'Shakal Basar Shmeina Kadei LaHarviach." What's the concern? He's going to throw in a lean piece of meat and take out my fat piece of meat. We're not stam concerned, unless the guy hates Jews. We're not stam concerned that the non-Jew or the not-from Jew is going to throw Isser and just trade things up. Only if they stand to gain. Now, obviously, kosher meat and kosher cheese is very expensive. So there's always an incentive in the food services to try to get something cheaper, to get the non-kosher, equivalent that's much cheaper. But the chash only exists with some financial or some other gain. So let's just see 2 more Gemaras that give examples of this mirrors, then we'll discuss how the place can relate it to hashgacha. So in number 8, what time do we have? 2 o'clock in the morning.
You can drive by.
Let's see, that's right. So in number 8, the Gemara in the Vodazar and Daf Ayin brings the following ma'isa. Hu chamra di Yisrael, the Jew has non-mevushal wine. To hava Yosef beveisa, to hava dar Yisrael be'el yoina. So there was a house, and the Jew lived on the 2nd floor. The only way to get out of the house is through the bottom floor. And he had his non-mevushal wine in his 2nd floor. And the non-Jew was living on the 1st floor. Shamu kol tigra. They heard the noise, nafki, and they went outside. They both ran outside to see what the noise is about. Kadam also evet yechavim. The guy comes back into the house first, Achta l'dasha ba'apei. And he closed the door, he locked the door, coming in. So the Jew comes back in, and the door is closed, it's locked, whatever, and now he's concerned. 1 second, the guy was by himself with my wine. Usually I'm there, but now we both ran out. He ran back first, and he locked the door. I have no idea, maybe he touched my wine. Maybe my wine is not kosher anymore. So Rava Pasnam, Rava Chamra Shari, the wine is mutter, it's still kosher. Why? Meimer Amar ki hechi dekadav asay ana kadav asay Yisrael v'yaseh bel yoina v'kachazili. Maybe just like the non-Jew might think to himself, just like I came back quickly, so we obviously came back more quickly than expected. Just like I got back here quickly, maybe my Jewish neighbor upstairs also came back, and he's upstairs and he can see me. So even though it sounds like that's a bit of a chash ruach, because it's not so common, but there is a chance that he's there. Rava Paskin, the wine is mutter, because there's a mirror, there's a fear. Number 9, Hahu Yisrael v'avikachavim d'havu yasvei v'kashosu chamer. Jew and non-Jew are drinking wine. Shama Yisrael called sluyeh. You hear another, the calling for davening, the call for mincha. They knished in the shul, come v'azos. The Jew gets up and he goes to daven. He leaves his wine back there. Milish Maresa, maybe, hopefully not. He thinks to himself, oh my gosh, I left my wine with the non-Jew. And I'm here davening. Mincha takes 15 minutes. So what's the halach? Is my wine now is a yain nesach? So Amarava Chamra Shari. Again, Rava says the wine is fine. Meimra Amar Hashta Mitcha Lechamrei V'Hader Asi. The non-Jew obviously realizes that in my rush to make it to Minyan, I left my wine there by accident. But you know what? This Jew can come back any second. I have no idea. Maybe he'll come back in a minute. He doesn't know. A minute takes 15 minutes. Maybe I'll run out in the middle when I realize that I left my wine behind. So since I can come back at any moment, there's a mirsis. So it says Rav Belsky Zatzal, Hashgacha today, every product that we put in our mouths today is based on these Gemaras, on the concept of mirsis. That at any point in time, the mashgiach, the Yosef Nichnas, or some Jew wandering around might see what's going on and call the guy out, and he'll lose his parnasa. That is why Kosher Miami does not like to go and solicit our services. By the way, would you like to become kosher? We want them to come to us because we want them to be machshiv, to view kashrus as important. We really need a kosher certification, so they'll come to us because then we have more clout with them than if we threaten to take away the hashgacha. So then that's going to resonate with them. So it's all about making the mirrors. That's how Rebels gets what he held hashgacha is based, and it's based on mirrors. So the other place for the why, Yibad L'Chaim Tovim, Rav Aruchim, Rav Hershel Schechter says it's very hard to say that just because we have these factories in China. Mashgiach leaves, he's not coming back. In the middle, it's like a 7-hour drive from Guangzhou, and you can't just get in there. You have to make an appointment, and how can you say there's a mirsus in these places? And even factories here in the United States, when they go 4 or 5 times a year. Mashgiach leaves on Wednesday, he's coming back, and let's say he comes back on Thursday. He's coming back on Friday and on Shabbos and a 3-day Yom Tov, and how can we say there's really a mirsus? So Rav Belsky will argue there is a mirsus, meaning it could be, it's 5:30 in the morning and it's dark outside, but someone could be walking up there. Maybe the Jews can come back for his wine. Rav Belsky will say, no, there still is a mirsus. Rav Schechter feels there's no mirsus, and therefore he says that certification is based on the first concept, on the Rav Moshe of Kimli Begaveh, that we see that a company, this works better with larger companies, we see that a company has a system, and we have to observe that for X amount of time to verify the system works. And it's not based on mirrors, it's based on the fact that we see there's a system and the system works. So we have a fundamental machloikis how all certification runs today. Is it based on mirrors? Now, for sure in the restaurants it's based on mirrors. The mashgichim we have there, and then on top of that the Yosef Nichnas, on top of that the CCTV, the closed circuit television, the cameras, all these things together create a mirrors. In each place, the tricky thing is that each place has to be assessed based on the individuals that are there. There are certain people, maybe from certain nationalities, that might be a little more difficult to deal with, and have a little more self-confidence. And you have to devise a plan that works in each place. And I've had issues in Melbourne where I felt that after going into this place for a year and a half, I don't trust these owners. And I think we have to raise our supervision to create that mirrors, because the given system I don't think is enough. So we have the Shulchan Aruch telling us the concept, but the application is very challenging because it can change from day to day, and for sure from restaurant to restaurant. But that's the mirrors model, which in restaurants there is no system. There's no system. The menus are always changing, and caterers are the hardest because they're always changing. That's for sure based on mirrors. But the machlokes between Rav Dalsin and Rav Schechter is an industrial kashrus. When you have companies and things are more official and more rigid as computer systems and the like. So those are the concepts. We have the mashgiach tamidi. The best, obviously, is to have the Jew there all the time, which doesn't happen anywhere, 24/7. You're not going to have mashgiach tamidi. Then we're relying either on the mirsis model, creating that fear, or on the kimli begavei model of the system works. Yeah.
Good question. I might be wrong, but I always have this question about when you have a mashgiach matmid. Usually, I understand that the one who pays the mashgiach is the actual owner of the restaurant. My question is, how does the mashgiach is not concerned about losing his job and responding to whatever the owner of the restaurant wants him to do? How he's not more fearful of the owner of the mashgiach than the owner?
Right. So that's an excellent question. We get that question all the time. The answer, you can give two answers. One answer is the halacha says that if a Jew who has a cheskes kashrus would rather lose his job than feed another Jew non-kosher food. Meaning, in as much as we're trusting him as a mashgiach, the halacha says we're allowed to trust him, we should trust him, that if it's a choice between his job and feeding this person non-kosher food, he's going to choose to lose his job. That's one answer. Rabbi Fried, the rabbinical administrator for Kosher Miami, said he heard from someone else an answer that that's why we have the Yoitz of Nichlas on top. In other words, we have mashgiach in every restaurant, mashgiach tamidi, and then on top of that we have a Yoitz of Nichlas, someone coming in once a week, twice, depends on the place, how complicated it is, up to 3 or 4 times a week, to make sure the mashgiach is doing his job, asking him questions, coming in at different times of the day, and that eliminates that concern. Those are the two answers to that question.
I was going to say, with cameras being so inexpensive nowadays, can't you just have sort of camera in the storeroom in the front?
Right, it's a very good question. Cameras help a lot, but they can never replace having a person there because there's angles and there's different things, and the cameras go down. They often will go down. They won't work. It's very hard. Practically, the Eidach HaRedis did do in New Zealand a Chalav Yisrael run based on other tzirufim with cameras. They had cameras very much involved in that run, but that was an anomaly. That was a specific case. But B'derech Klal, there's nothing like a person walking in and seeing what's going on, and the human mind, when it's in the place itself, you can't compare it to cameras. But we definitely use cameras as well as an added layer of protection.
Is the KM, which you're familiar with, does every restaurant that they give hashgacha to are they on the alarm system? They know when the alarm goes on and goes off 24 hours a day, if they get a report just like the owner would get a report?
I don't know. I'm not there long enough to know.
You understand why?
Yeah, that would be that's a good idea.
That's a big hole in the...
Yeah, that's a great idea as far as monitoring. In Melbourne, we didn't have that. But that would be definitely a good idea.
And they'd have to have, and it could never be taken away from the owner, could never take away that permission, except with some making it more difficult that we know what's going on.
When people are coming in and going out.
Right, because that's something where owners can always go in and out, no one would know.
Right.
Or an employee could, by mistake, could go on purpose for his benefit going out, and the owner may or may not know.
If you have cameras, that would solve that. If you have motion cameras, where if someone moves, then it goes on.
Oh.
Otherwise, you can't just watch every single night.
But
the alarm thing is a great idea.
But the alarm, because windows can't be, the windows are alarmed too, the only way is to shut off the alarm. So even legally, shut on or off.
Yeah, that's a great idea. We have a board meeting this week. I'll bring it up in your name.
Okay. Because of things I've heard, restaurants in Dane and Broward County, as well as in the old days and in Chicago and LA. And I'm just surprised that would have been an automatic thing.
No, it's a great idea. I think it's excellent. Maybe we do have it. I don't know. But I'll definitely check on it.
So you spoke about the owners having a fear, like the owners of the businesses and the owners of the restaurants. But what happens when it comes to like disgruntled employees? Like you see all the time at McDonald's, like they're spinning in the food, wherever, and they only get caught when they actually were dumb enough to post it on social media, and then they say, look what we did to the food, and then they lose their job. But they don't care to such an extent that they're going to publicize it. So do we not have any concern for employees of that nature that don't care if they lose their job and will do it just to spite?
So that's one of the advantages of having mashgiach to be there. I guess if he senses there's an employee that's not trustworthy, then he would notify us or he would take care of it himself. But we need not be concerned for that. If we don't know anything else, you don't have to assume that you have such a disgruntled employee there. But definitely, if someone's aware of that, we would definitely have to deal with that situation. What happens sometimes, happens in Melbourne, is that we get a phone call after the guy quit or got fired, that you have no idea what's going on in that place. They don't listen to any of your rules, and and that you take with a grain of salt because
After
they have an
the
axe to
license.
grind. Do you say that once they're no longer working there's no mirrors from the owner and they're telling the truth, or do you say they have an axe to grind? So you take it seriously and you investigate, but you don't just run in there and put on the handcuffs.
What other vehicles do we rely on, including nurses or the Mashgiach committee, for example, Bata Barai, Bata B'Shishin? What other things come into play that?
So we'll use those as far as if something happened. Let's say if someone brought the wrong ingredient and it was used in a dish. So then we'll have to figure out if we have to Kosher Kalim, if throughout the food. So then we'll get into as far as the Bittul Barai and Bittul B'Shishin. But like for example, Safik Bishul Akim is mutter. Right? If you're not sure if the non-Jew put on the fire, that's mutter. But we don't then say, okay, so whatever happens, let's turn a blind eye, and then it's Safik Bishul Akim L'Kula. We, as a certifying agency, we can't do that l'chatchila. But if b'di'evet something arises, so then the Rabbanim, the Poskim will decide, when to apply those principles.
We were having a discussion these days in a particular case of a bakery inside a wholesaler. It's a very big bakery. So, correct me if I'm wrong. Like the bakery is like, it's a BJ.
Okay.
So,
is that under Kosher man? Is it
It's
under
under Cupcake.
It's sure not good, right?
So, because it's Cupcake, and there's also what other shkachik involved?
Whatever, tell us the story, tell us the my stuff, it doesn't matter.
It's not my say, it's actually, okay, you explain it, you have a better English.
No, so Amos was concerned that, so what happens is in BJ's, I spoke to Mashgiach that I saw there once, and I also called the Cupcake. And what they have is everything that that's dairy, right? They put on the stickers, the Cupcake dairy, and everything that's not dairy has no stickers on it. And there's a sign that by the bakery. So I called the company. They said everything in the bakery is completely kosher. But what happens is the stuff that doesn't have the stickers on it is dairy kalim, and they by policy don't certify anything that's dairy kalim. Either it has to be totally parv or dairy, and so therefore they won't put any of their labels on any of the parv stuff, right? The DE. So Amos's question was, well, how do we trust the goyim have the stickers? They're putting the stickers.
I've seen many times the goyim actually have the roll of the Chavkei stickers,
and they're putting it on.
And they're putting it on.
Right. So the way I would imagine, again, I can't speak firsthand, obviously. The way I would imagine that would be run is that you have a Yoytzev Nichas, you have a Mashgiach coming in there, and therefore, if he's going to catch them putting it on the wrong, again, when they're putting that sticker on, maybe that's when the Mashgiach is going to walk in. Now, that would depend how often is he coming, how long does he stay there, but assuming they have the proper system in place there, they're creating a mirsus. In the premises, there's a mirsus. There has to be, that's the only way it could work. So the Mashgiach coming in and seeing them putting the sticker on the wrong item, they'd be afraid they'd lose their job, and that's what would keep them on the up and up.
They may have a color chart on the wall somewhere that maybe.
But how do you have
With
the tape? We walk into a place. We never want to see more than one roll of tape out, and only if the mashgiach is there. There's a lockbox in many places they need multiple rolls of tape, kosher tape, because they need to have orders often. But we lock it away, and only one roll of tape should be out at a time, and mashgiach has to be around. You have to be very careful with the tape. But that being said, I forgot who was. Someone told me that they were once at JFK and they saw a sign on the wall. Someone lost something with OU tape. It was keeping it on the wall. And sometimes the tape escapes the hands of whoever it is.
By the way, I got a few emails in the last 3 months from Kosher for all kinds of tape. You buy your own tape, whatever you want on it. So theoretically,
that's also
internet. That's not necessarily nowadays. Anyone can get whatever.
And it's the same thing with putting a symbol on the whatever it is.
Right. Well, that hopefully you'll get. It will be reported by consumers usually.
Right.
But you're right. Yeah. And another question: if you're in, let's say, in a certain restaurant, they have once the meat is chopped up in small pieces of the chicken, there's no siman that is kosher. So let's say in a chicken place or a shawarma place, if there's leftover and it's already cut up into small pieces, does Mashiach weigh the stuff and seal it in a container, and they know nothing else in that restaurant? In the freezer, the fridge has other stuff in there, so where in the morning of Mashiach's missing, he knows when he gets in there in the morning, opens the door, assuming he opens the door, that they weigh it, make sure nothing was added on it. Or during the day, is there a way to know on the register how many pounds or how many sandwiches are using, a quarter of a pound or whatever it is, so that when the Mashiach may be in a bathroom, he may be there, some could be in the trunk of a car. Is that going too far? You know,
Right, so as far
it's
as
happened in North End Beach, by the way, not before your time, but
Right,
before
of
your
course.
time.
But of course. But as far as the question of locking it up at night, so for sure the mashgichim lock everything up, either with tape. They seal it again. The idea of a lock is not that you can't get into it; it's that it has to be tamper-proof.
Right.
You can tell if someone broke into it. So often they'll lock it in the fridge with a lock, and you can't get into it, or they'll seal it with tape. But the mashgiach should never and does never leave any meat or any food that's unrecognizably kosher, not in the package, out. Everything has to be sealed unless he opens and closes. In some places, the mashgiach opens and closes.
Right.
Where he doesn't, everything has to be locked away. As far as him going to the bathroom and someone coming in,
I don't mean
that's
for
the
a
mirror.
second, or till they have him sweeping, and I've seen the restaurant, a half hour, 40 minutes, an hour, is not where he should be. You know what I mean? And who knows, I'm not saying anything goes on, I don't see it.
I'll tell you something off the record as it's recording, off the record. And that is that the whole restaurant industry is very difficult, meaning you have
Extremely.
multiple non-Jews or not from Jews in a place, and you have one mashgiach, and this is their parnasa, and we have our halachic mechanisms and systems in place, but can we say that for sure nothing's ever happened anywhere? It's a very difficult field.
Just something that is relevant to what the rabbi just said. I barely ever seen, and this is like relevant, very relevant for today, delivered food being sealed. Rarely, ever.
It comes in opened and loose.
It comes like in regular, like talkie bags,
So you gotta
containers.
complain. You got the consumer has power.
We
You gotta-
did.
I know.
Actually,
We spoke
actually,
about it.
What kind
That
of
wasn't
place, a
Kate.
restaurant?
But no, but you
Name
have
it.
to
They don't seal it.
complain. You have to. The best way to get them to change. I mean, we can get on their case and we can, But when the customer says, "Listen, this is horrible. This is ridiculous. I'm not going to this place again," that is the most powerful way for them to get them to change.
Okay. Wow.
Just go ahead.
Yeah.